Hi everyone. Yes, this time I made these photo frames. It's supposed to be an easy quick project, but when it comes to be making it with hand tools, let's see how it goes. Of course, I started with cutting wood, and this time I used S4S as I was in a rush to make them. Though figured wood S4S tends to be twisted due to the complicated grain, and this was also very twisted even before cutting it into the pieces. To finish one face, I needed to remove a lot of material from some of them. See, there are about 1/8 of an inch difference in the thickness among them. I actually worried about tearing out when planing on the curry maple, but luckily the grain wasn't that difficult at all. Anyways, I finished the other face carefully as well as the sides because dimensioning wood is very important when it comes to be cutting a miter on the ends. Moving on to the miter shooting board, I just used the leftover plywood. The factory edge was pretty straight, so I just sanded with a surface plate to make a reference edge. Then I chamfered the edges a little bit and glued the bolts and then put screws. This is just a quick build within a few hours, so it's made with some scrap wood, but as long as it works, I have no complaints about it. Well, still, I suck at positioning things when gluing, so I needed to be extra careful. I don't know why, but I'm good at misaligning things like this. Anyways, this is my shooting board. It's not fancy, but I'm happy with it. Now I need to prepare all the wood for miter joints. Yes, I cut the rabbet at this moment. I used to do it with just chisels, but now I have a Japanese moving Philista plane, so it was easy. Though this plane along with the rabbet plane I'm gonna use at the next step, they are finally getting to be tuned after 1 year of using them. Japanese tools aren't all set out of the box, and I enjoy the dilemma of tuning them by making errors after errors. Well, I know I still have to find a way to hold the small work pieces. Now is the miter shooting board in action. But let me be honest, this cherry was way too hard, and my plain blade didn't engage the end grain even after I put the water on it. I thought maple will be tougher, so I saved this cherry for shooting this video. But the maple was just like softwood comparing to this cherry. Anyways, I was somehow able to cut the miters, so now I chamfer inside corners real quick. Then just gluing. I like how maple looks on the edges, but only the thing I can't like about it is, it needs a real perfect joinery or slightest gap like hairpin gap will create a visible glue line. If it's a mortise and tenon joint, I can use Kigoroshi technique, which is to compress the wood fiber before assembly. And the fiber will try to come back to the original size by glue moisture, which helps removing a hairpin gap. But are there any ways to do it with the miter joint? Well, you'll see how this thing goes at the end, so don't rush. After gluing, I cut a spline. I was going to use a very thin spline, but my cutting was way off the line. And conveniently, it was dark, so I decided to blame it on the darkness and use a thicker spline. This is actually my second time cutting a spline, so I carefully cleaned the slot just in case not to break the joint. And now I can confirm this cherry is hard. It's one of those cherry I grabbed from a lumber yard, but I wonder what's the difference. For the side walls, it's a long grain to long grain joint, so as long as I compress the spline, there won't be a gap, so I can go easy. On the other hand, I paid attention to clean the bottom of the slot so the spline can be fully seated. If you want to undercut the bottom to be sure it's fully seated, please do it only in the very middle part, or sometime you'll have to face with a gap when doing a finishing plane. And this is just a scrap piece to see if the bottom is flat, so please note the actual spline grain orientation has to be going like the picture. Now putting the spline. I didn't know how I'm supposed to clamp it, so I just wrap it with the blue tape. But man, this blue tape, now it's so expensive. Oh well, at least the spline is tight. It's almost there and I'm finally finishing the faces. The face was a little bit misaligned, so I cleaned it with a finishing plane. This wood is so beautiful. Oh, and I usually put oil after this, but I actually sanded them with 220 grit sandpaper and do the water pop thing. The thing is, I realized if there's some imperfection by a plain finish, and when it gets wet, the part gets fuzzy. Since these frames are a gift, and I know I always find errors after the project, I just wanted to be sure it won't get fuzzy when they get wet accidentally. And then putting the oil and screwing the hardware, here's what I made. It's supposed to be a simple project, but to me it was definitely not. But I like how they came out. Oh, here, like I said in the middle of the video, the joints on this cherry aren't perfect, but the glue line on the mitre doesn't bother me at all. But on maple, I see the dark glue line. I know no one's going to care about it that much on just a photo frame, but this is why I hesitate to use maple. Oh well, splines came out good, and whatever the joint thing is, the maple is so beautiful. On top of it, this cherry grain is beyond my expectation. And I guess that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching. I would be happy if you liked the video and happier if you subscribe to this channel. If you have any suggestion to my video, it's also welcome. See you!